Alright, so we're going to be doing this in your sketchbook. This is going to be a page in your sketchbook, and everything that I put on my page in the sketchbook, I want you to put on your page in the sketchbook. Okay, so to begin with, we are doing 1 point perspective. And this means it has one vanishing point. Okay? So, please write that down. 1 point perspective means we are working with one vanishing point. Now we're going to be using a ruler, but we're not using this ruler to measure with. Alright? We are simply using this ruler to get a straight line. So if you don't have a ruler, you're doing this at home and you don't have a ruler, or you're doing it here and you don't have a ruler, you can take any piece of paper and just fold it a couple of times. And the more times you fold it, the heavier it is. You have to use that piece of paper. Okay? So the more times that you fold it, the heavier it is. And we're only looking for a straight edge right here. Okay? So I could use this to get my straight edge if I needed to. I happen to have a ruler. Alright? So 1 point perspective using one vanishing point. For right now, I'm just going to stick my vanishing point right in the middle of the page, and it literally is just a dot, a point. Then I'm going to use my ruler, and I am going to draw a horizon line. This is simply a horizontal line that goes through the vanishing point. Now we can use 1 point perspective in order to indicate space. Right? In fact, that's what perspective is used for. It is our element of art that demonstrates how close or how far away something is in space. So the further away things are from this dot, the bigger they're going to look. The closer they get to this dot, this vanishing point, the further away they're going to look. So a lot of times you will see this in cityscapes or landscapes where you're looking off into the distance and things look very, very tiny. If you're driving down a highway and you look down that highway, everything starts to go to one single point. Okay, that is 1 point perspective. So what we are going to begin with here, and I would like you can approach this a couple of different ways. All right, I would like you to use the straight edge to try and make sure that your squares actually look like squares. Okay, but if you want to begin with just drawing a square lightly and then cleaning up the edges, you can do that too. So I'm going to draw one square here. Okay. Now right now this is literally just a square. I have not made it look three-dimensional so that it looks like a cube or a box. Okay, and we're going to call them boxes because I'm probably not drawing perfect squares here. Right? Now, when we put the lines, these are going to be called orthogonal lines. They're the diagonal lines that lead the eye towards the vanishing point. All right, and we'll write down some of these words here in just a minute. But we want to keep in mind that this is a solid opaque box. So we're not seeing all the sides. So I'm going to start. I'm going to, and I suggest that you draw lightly. All right? If you draw really dark and heavy, then you're going to be doing a lot of erasing when we get to this part, when we finish it up. So using the very corner, and the corner that is closest to our vanishing point, I'm going to lightly draw a line that connects to the vanishing point. I'm not going to use this corner that's the furthest away. I know that this one is hiding back there, so I'm not going to use it. Okay? I'm going to use my next two closest ones, and again lightly draw a line to the vanishing point. And I'm going to do the same thing from this one that's on the very bottom. So the only one I'm not using in this is this one point that is the furthest away. So, we'll write it in there. Now, right now, does this look like it is a really, really long box? Yeah. Okay. So, it's gonna look. That looks a little distorted. So we need to create an ending point. Where's the outside, the furthest edge of this box? Now, the most important thing in making sure that this box actually looks like a real box is noticing that the line I'm about to draw is going to be parallel to one of the lines on our original square. Okay? So I'm simply going to, and again, I'm just using this ruler as a straight edge. So if I line my ruler up on the edge, and I try to keep it parallel and just slide it up, I'm going to stop right about there, and I'm going to draw a line. Okay? So when I originally drew this particular box, or this particular square, I kept my lines vertical and horizontal to the page. Okay, so I'm just drawing this next line. The end of the box is parallel to the first line I drew. Okay, now the next one also has to be parallel to this side line, and I'm going to slide my ruler out, but I also have to connect it with the line I already drew. Okay, so I am connecting it with this line in the back, and it is parallel to the first square I drew, to the lines of my original rectangle or square here. Okay? Now this is where it was important to draw lightly. Okay? Because I don't need these lines anymore. These lines are disappearing. So now I have one box. Now one of the biggest mistakes, and this is what I want you to check for. If I originally drew this box right here, I'm not going to use my ruler for this, I'm just going to give you an example. And I lightly drew my lines here to the vanishing point. Okay? But the biggest mistake that people make, and the reason their boxes don't look right, is this next set of lines, they're not careful to make sure that they're parallel. And they give me something like this and like this. Okay? And it doesn't look quite right. Or they go at the other extreme and they tell me that this is their box. Does that look like a box?
I mean, it looks like one that's been like hit by something.
Yeah, it's not quite right. So what you have to remember is that this line right here and this line right here, they have to be parallel. That is the biggest mistake, is that those back lines right there are not parallel. Okay, so the assignment then is that we want to draw 10 of these boxes. Okay, so your boxes do not have to be horizontal and vertical with the page. So let's say I did one above the horizon line, and I'm just going to sketch it in here first, and then I'm going to go back with my ruler and I'm going to try and make sure that I have 90-degree angles. Okay. And again, I know that this point that is the furthest away, I'm not going to use. I'm not going to draw a line there, because as soon as I did, I'd be drawing through my box. All right? This is not a transparent box, so I don't want to draw a line through my box. So I've got my square, my rectangle here. I'm sure it's not perfect. I'm going to start with the point closest. I'm going to draw lightly, because I know I'm going to have to erase. I'm going to work with this next corner I can use. Now look what happens here though. These are the ones where we have this teeny tiny little side. These are again the ones where we have to be careful. We can still see part of this. Just because it's small doesn't mean we're not seeing a part of that side of this three-dimensional object here. Alright? So even though that's small, we want to draw it. Now the next step is then, again, we've got to make these parallel lines. The easiest one to make is going to be on this largest space here. Okay? So I'm going to line my ruler up so that I can get it as parallel as possible. Slide it out. I'm checking to make sure that this line is parallel with my ruler. And then I draw that line. Okay? Now when we draw the next line to finish it up, you're going to think it's wrong. It's going to look weird to you, because this is such a small area here. But again, the most important thing is to line up your ruler with the edge that your line has to be parallel to. Slide it out until it meets this point on the line you've already drawn. You draw that across. Okay? Because of the angle to our vanishing point, this is going to look like it's a little off to you, but it is correct. And then you go in and you erase the lines that led up to the vanishing point. I'm sorry? You think it's incorrect if the lines don't meet at the vanishing point? Yeah. If your lines aren't actually lining up with the vanishing point, then your angles are off. Okay. Now, we have a box here that is below the horizon line. Notice where you are seeing the extension, the three-dimensional part of the box. It's above your original one. When your box is above the horizon line, then the three-dimensional part of it is below the original shape you drew. Okay? So, I'm going to draw another shape, and it's going to be on the horizon line. So, I'm going to make this one, we're going to go ahead and make it kind of like our first one where we had the horizontal and vertical lines lined up with the edges of the paper. And I'm just going to use my ruler to get these straight lines here. Trying to make sure that they are close to 90 degrees, but I can tell you right now mine aren't perfect. Alright. Now notice that these two far corners here, if I were to draw a line, I'd have to draw it through the box. We said we're making these look opaque, so I don't want to draw it through the box. This is just a solid box right now. So I can't use either one of those points right now. These 2 points closest to the vanishing point, they can both have a line drawn to the vanishing point. And there was a good point made just a minute ago. If your lines are not lining up with this vanishing point, if they're kind of going out somewhere over here, if this is just some random line going out over here, it will not look correct. So with 1 point perspective, you have to actually use the vanishing point. Okay, and this time, we just have the one line, so I'm going to make it parallel. I'm going to put my ruler on there. I'm going to slide it out, trying to keep it parallel, and I'm drawing the end of that box, and then I can erase those other lines, and I can erase the horizon line that's inside my box there. Now, just so you have an idea, this box right here that we drew, that's sitting on the horizon line, this is how people design things that are like cityscapes. So, you know, I could, and if I use my, you know, this is kind of how they do that. Now, there's still, you still have to be aware of the vanishing point, but this is how people draw buildings and make them look like they're in perspective and actually getting smaller. Okay? So we're going to focus just on our boxes there, but I wanted to point that out. Okay? Now, if I were to draw, we'll do it over here. Let's say I have another one that's kind of turned at an angle here, kind of on the horizon line. Can erase that part of the horizon line that's going through. I have this point that is slightly above, so I want to draw that. It's going to be similar to my horizon line. I'm drawing from the next two closest. I can draw those lines without going through the box, but I can't do this one. I would be drawing through the box. Now, to help you out, because you've got a line really close, I'd probably go ahead and erase part of that horizon line just so that you can see which line you want to work with here. And now I'm going to line my ruler up with the edge of my original shape, move it out, however long. You're making the decision how long this box is. Okay? I'm going to draw the line that's parallel, so these two lines should be parallel to each other. Go to the other side. Again, I'm sliding it out. I want to keep my ruler parallel. I'm stopping at the first line I just drew so that they match up, and connecting that together. And then I can erase I am going to make sure I put back in my horizon line now. Okay. So your job is to draw 10 good boxes. All right. So if you draw a box, just for example, let me put one on here that would not be acceptable. I'll put it over here. So I draw this box right here. I draw my vanishing point. But I don't make it parallel. Okay? This one doesn't count. It's not correct. So you have two choices. You either fix it so that it is correct, right? Then I can use it, or you draw another one. Now, what's going to happen if you want to draw a box over here? Can you? We can. You just have to be more careful. All right? So let's say I want a box over here. I can still line this up with the vanishing point. I just don't want to draw through my other boxes. So this is where space really comes into play here. This box here is closer than this one. And that's fine. We want that effect. I'm still going to decide where my edge is. So I line up my ruler. I slide it out so that it's parallel. And I draw that line. I just don't draw it through the box that's in front. Okay? I line up my ruler. I slide it out. Trying to keep it parallel. It just so happens it's hitting the corner. Oops, I messed that one up. So to take into account the thickness on the ruler here. And you just kind of have to decide. We've got some lines here that look like they're being shared. Okay? But I can still fit one in there. This is where drawing lightly becomes very important, because you're going to be erasing a lot of your lines here, especially if you've never done this before and you're just starting. Okay? So, I need 10. This one's good. 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 I've got 6 good ones. This one only counts as a good one because I went back and I corrected it. You need a total of 10 that are correct. Number them if you drew them correctly and continue adding more. Okay, you need 10 correct boxes on this page. That's the assignment for today. And I want you to draw them all on this page. Don't put them on a second page. And number them if they're correct. Okay?